Okay, Nick and Andy, huge game in North London this weekend. Tottenham Hotspur host Manchester United. I'll be on site for PST with our analysis, live updates, and much more from this big one. I mean, we say it's a big one, two big clubs, but two clubs obviously going through huge problems this season with injuries, with lack of form, change in manager, Man United's case. I mean, Nick, we would usually call this a top four battle, right? But it's more like the battle for 13th right now, given how poor the season's been, which is crazy to say. Is it going to be chaos in this game? Because both teams kind of want to make a statement. But I don't know what's going to happen. I think from week to week, neither of these teams know what version of themselves is going to turn up, right?
It reminds me of a lyric from a band from the 90s. I'm older than you guys, Soul Asylum. They say, misery loves company. We should make a company that makes misery. And both of these clubs, holy cow, this season. It's one thing, I think, for one team, one big team. We've seen it. Chelsea's dipped. Liverpool pre-Klopp dipped. City may be doing a minor dip right now. But to see two teams down there, there's a little bit of, it almost feels natural. And yet the team that loses this game is going to feel such consternation, which is maybe why we bet on a tie, given the way this season has gone. Spurs just look so unlucky with injury. There's just no other way to say it. It should be said every week. I'm sure it gets annoying to Spurs fans. I'm sure the other fans hate that one team gets the same thing said about them all the time, but it's just true. It really, really is. And United, on the other hand, they're running out of time for this to feel like a project that is just stalling a little bit in the reboot. So I think there is not real pressure. Of course, there's real pressure. But the team that gets a win can float on this for a little while.
Yeah. A bit of feel-good factor would return, right? After all the things they've been through in the last few weeks. I mean, Andy, you're a Tottenham Hotspur fan. These Spurs are starting to get players back and just talked about, we have a whole week off now between these games after they lost to Aston Villa in the FA Cup last weekend. Yeah. The pressure, he kind of was speaking like a manager under pressure a little bit after that defeat at Aston Villa, but almost just like Nick said, just kind of tired of saying the same things and explaining and trying to say, look, these players, this small squad of players, a lot of young players, have been rolled out 2-3 times a week, every week for the last 3 months now, since November when these injuries started. So it's just reality of the situation, right? It might not be a good story, and it might, like Nick said, every week you got to keep saying the same thing, but it's really hard not to sympathize with Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham. So surely he's not under pressure, even if they lose this game.
Yeah, you know what I loved about what he said after the recent games? He's been saying this a lot, obviously, because this has been the story of the season. But the way that he frames the conversation now around the injuries and the players that are playing is there should be a lot more credit and a lot more praise and a lot more appreciation to the 13 or 14 players that have continued to play twice a week for 2.5 months. There have been multiple times in this period. Radu Dragusin, before he had the ACL injury, had an ankle injury that everybody said he shouldn't be playing, but he went out there and played every game because he was the only senior defender over the age of 18 that they had available. Pat Matar Sarr has done the same thing with injuries, that these players have given everything that they could. And I think it's great that Ange recognized that and called it out publicly for people to reframe the conversation around what this season has been. I'll take that and I'll tie it back to a point that we made about Manchester City and Real Madrid this week as well, and in their Champions League tie. I can see a path to Spurs being better this season. You get the players back. We have seen good football from them. We have seen what it can look like under Ange. You don't even need everybody back. Just get half of them back. Get 5 or 6 of those players back. And suddenly, not only do you have a better starting 11, but you've got depth and you can affect the game after 60 and 70 and 80 minutes versus simply just trying to finish the game. For the last 2 months, Spurs' only objective, it's not we're going to try to win. They are trying to win. We're just going to try and finish the game. We're going to try and get through 90 minutes and hope we have 11 players to do that. That is the situation. And so until it gets that bad at Manchester United, they only have themselves to blame. It's more of the same that we've seen from them, wayward in the transfer market, wayward with the manager, making managerial changes. I will give Daniel Levy the slightest bit of credit here and say he's stuck with Ange through this, and we've not heard anything from inside the club. There have been reports from out, but there's nothing from inside the club that has undermined him in any way. And that has certainly happened to Spurs managers of the past.
Yeah, I mean, Andy mentioned it there, Nick, in terms of Man United, just chaotic mess for the most part. I mean, rollercoaster is the best way to sum up Ruben Amorim's first few months in charge, right? It's been some good results, some really bad ones. In the cup competitions, they're going well in the FA Cup, scraped through there, scraped through to the last 16 of the Europa League as well. Actually, they were comfortable in Europa League, but definitely scraped through in the FA Cup. I mean, are they one of these teams that are kind of better away from home? Because they're losing a lot of games at Old Trafford, but kind of when expectations are low and they can just sit back, soak up pressure, and then they have the quality of a Bruno, they have Garnacho and Amad Diallo on the counter. This seems to suit them a little bit better at this point in their kind of rebuild, and just confidence levels are low in keeping the ball and trying to make something happen, that they're almost a better reactionary team at the moment. And it seems like this game might play out pretty well for Man United at Tottenham Hotspur this weekend.
It could. I just don't know if they can attack. I really don't. I know what they're trying to do with Amorim's system, with the 3 players up there, and Bruno's a perfect fit for it. But that center forward on an island, you've got Højlund and Xerxes, who are young-ish guys at least. They're not Erling Haaland. If you have Erling Haaland there, then you can put him on an island and hold up and know that he's dangerous enough to turn with the ball. Garnacho's not a natural fit there. We talked about this in December, right? That only Mason Mount really provided the skill set. Not that we loved him as a player, but in terms of someone who can also be there with Bruno. I just don't think they have that. And it is a little bit of a knock on Amorim, but at the same time, if I'm going to credit Ange at Spurs for sticking with his system, then I'm going to give a little bit of credit to Man United for trying to find answers and still bet in these players, many of whom can be key pieces for him when he gets those forwards. But they have 28 goals this year. Their XG is only 34. That's mid-table. 28 goals scored is brutal. I mean, that's bad, like outright bad. So I'm just wondering if they play at their best, and we saw this with Ten Hag. They did not allow a lot of goals early in this year. What did they not do? Score. And they're still not scoring. And at some point, I have to wonder if Bruno Fernandes isn't say, I need a month off.
Yeah, it's true. Again, they've been running out the same guys there a lot of the time now under Amorim. He's figured out, at least in his mind, the players you can trust in this system. It's clunky. Let's be fair. It's really clunky right now. And maybe it clicks over a full preseason and start of next season. They're looking a lot better, but it's a long road back for Man United at the moment under Ruben Amorim. Andy, what you got in score prediction, mate?
It's hard to say because the Spurs injury list, even now with the potential returns, I'll just run through them here real quick. Potentially this weekend, Madison, Van de Ven, Udogie, Vicario, Werner, and Johnson could all be back. Some could be, some could not be. Some could be on the bench. A couple could start maybe. So it is hard to say, but you already start to get a picture of how quickly things come together for Spurs. I think they have to be favorites in this one just because we have seen – we know what they're trying to do from game to game, I think, and it's not chopping and changing. It's consistent because it has to be, I guess. I think there is mentally and within the locker room, there is a belief still among the Spurs players that I'm not sure. I'm not saying that it has been lost at United under Amorim, but I don't think he's grown that himself yet. I don't think he has instilled that in the players since he's been there. And so there's still a lot of work to do. So at this point, that's a big picture way of saying in this one game, I think Spurs will win 2-1. And yeah, a little bit of joy in North London this weekend, maybe. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Nick?
I'm betting on increased depression all around. No,
Both teams lose.
Yes, well, kind of. I'm going for 1-1. I think there's enough quality on both of these teams, and I don't think we'll see quit on either of these teams. To Andy's point about Spurs and to United players still trying to be around Amorim. The thing I'll find interesting is what happens if this draw happens and Everton and or West Ham pick up 3 points. It's just you may see two names, Spurs and Man United, as low as you will ever see them on a Premier League table. So I guess I'm just betting on more chaos, 1-1.
Yeah, I'm going for chaos. I'm going to go 3-2 to Tottenham. I think defending is going to go out the window. We know that the talent that Tottenham have going forward. And I think that if they can find some energy after this week off, that is very rare for them, having a whole week off. I think that will benefit them greatly with Kulusevski, Son. Tell's looked good since he's come in. I just can see Tottenham scoring a lot, but I also think they'll leave themselves very open. It'll be like early days Tottenham, and Man United do have players on the count. Andy wants to jump in one more time.
Yeah, let me throw in a point on that. The first week that Spurs have had off that didn't include an international break since the end of August, where they haven't had a midweek game in between weekend league games. So yeah, they'll be a little bit fresh.
A little bit fresh. And let's see if the game is fresh. And I think it will be. I think 3-2 to Tottenham is my prediction. So head over to Pro Soccer Talk at NBCSports.com for all the latest on this game. I'll be there in North London at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Can't wait for this one. Nick, Andy, thanks so much for joining me. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll speak to you all very soon. Cheers, guys.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lowe, and as we head towards the end of an exciting Premier League season, make sure you like and subscribe on the NBC Sports YouTube channel for more content like this.